your girl Kanaya, and I'm back with another video. This is Kari, and in today's video we are going to be talking about my labor and delivery story. I was thinking of ways the whole time, like, okay, how can I make my birth like this person, or how can I make it as fast as this person? I'm telling you, you can do anything as far as like taking like dates or eating dates. You can take red raspberry leaf capsules. You can do all of that, but your birth is not going to be the same as somebody else's. I had to learn that, like, your birth is not going to be the same as somebody else's at all. It's one thing can change the whole process, and like me, that's exactly what happened. So let's get into the story. So my mucus plug came out the day before I gave birth to my son, and I was confused because at first I didn't know if it was my mucus plug or not, and it ended up being my mucus plug. And my mucus plug only came out as small pieces. It didn't come out just boom, here's my mucus plug and that's it. It was very small. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not going to go into labor anytime soon because only a piece of my mucus plug came out, not the whole thing. So I'm like, but it did give me hope because I was so miserable. I was 39 weeks when I had my son, but by 34 weeks, I was over it. No, I wasn't trying to have him at 34 weeks because that's too early, and they don't recommend you going into labor that early because according to hospitals, he's not full term yet. So I was like, okay, 34 weeks, I'm not going to have him. Of course, I'm not even going to look up stuff to induce my labor. But by 35 weeks, I started walking more than I normally did. I started walking more. And by 36 weeks, I was trying to figure out ways to induce myself to go into labor. And 37 weeks, I was really on it. 38 weeks, I was on it. And then 39 weeks, it ended up obviously working in order for me to go into labor. So, like I said, the day before I went into labor, I lost a piece of my mucus plug, not the whole thing. And then I bounced on a ball. I was bouncing on a ball. And then I went to my friend's house, and she had made some oxtails and rice and beans, which I feel like which kind of also helped me go into labor because the sodium in it was so like powerful. My feet was swollen a lot, but after that my feet really was swollen. Like, I could not fit in my shoes, and I feel like that kind of helped, which probably doesn't make sense, but I really do. And then, so I went to her house, and they were like rubbing on my stomach and whatnot, and they were talking about like, okay, well, like, what if she goes into labor right now? Woo woo. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna go into labor right now or anytime soon. I was really expecting him to make it full term because he was acting like as if that he was not going to come out until his expected date, which was October 17th, but I ended up having him on October 13th. So then, yeah, we were at the house, and they're rubbing on my stomach, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not having him anytime soon. I bounced on the ball. But the morning that I went over my friend's house, I cleaned my house from top to bottom, on my hands, knees, wiping the floors, like trying to get this baby out. So then I wake up the next morning. Not even wake up this next morning. I was woken up out of my sleep because of contractions. Now, I had Braxton Hicks since I experienced my first Braxton Hicks, I would say at like 30 weeks. But this didn't feel like a Braxton Hicks. I'm like, okay, but in my mind, when I first had it, I'm like, okay, maybe this is just another Braxton Hicks, because my Braxton Hicks were strong. Like, I felt like those are actually well, they are a form of contraction, but I felt like it was the contractions, because that stuff hurt. Like, it hurt so bad, like, it was terrible. So I was woken up out of my sleep because it was a real contraction. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is just a Braxton Hicks. So I'm just going to lay back down, take some Tylenol, and go back to sleep. So this is about 2 o'clock in the morning. I lay back down, I took some Tylenol, and I tried to go back to sleep. Baby, ain't no sleep with no contractions. There was no sleep. I literally laid down for 5 seconds and woke back up, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, this gotta be real. So I started timing my contractions, and off rip, they were 6 minutes apart. So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna say nothing to nobody. I'm not gonna call the doctor yet or anything. I let it I continued to time my contraction, and for a whole hour they were 6 minutes apart. By 4 o'clock, I called my child's dad and I told him like, yeah, you need to come get me because um I'm having these contractions, like this is real. So I ended up texting his mom and I told her, she's like, yeah, I think today is gonna be the day. And I'm like, yeah, I hope so, because I'm ready to have him. I'm ready for him to come out. So we get to the hospital, and honey, let me tell you, them daggone IVs, I don't like that at all. But they gave me an IV, and then not only did they give me an IV, but the person who gave me my IV messed up the first time. So not only did he had to stick me one time, but he had to stick me 2 times, and that junk hurt. Okay, it hurt. So they gave me my IV. I was sitting in a waiting room for like an hour. Not the waiting room, but the little room that you're in before you can get your room to be admitted. When I got to the hospital, I was 4 centimeters and my contractions were coming fast. And that's just what happened. They were coming fast. And so after I waited in the little, the weight room, I got admitted. And then they moved me to my room that I was going to deliver him in. Once I got in there, they started me on some medicine because I tested positive for G-strep. Once I got that medicine, the contractions they kept on coming. I had strong contractions, like they were coming and they were strong. So I was walking. I walked for about an hour. I walked, and then I was at a 6. Like I would say about 2 hours in, I was at a 6. And then after walking, I was walking around the room, bouncing on the ball. And then after I bounced on the ball, my contractions started to get stronger. Doctor ended up coming in the room, and she asked me, did she have permission to break my water? And I let her break my water. Like, I wanted to know how it would have felt for my water just to break by itself. But my mom told me that them breaking it and it breaking by its own self would have felt exactly the same. So I'm like, okay, I'm fine. Like, you can break my water. So the doctor breaks my water, and then baby, after that, she was like, yeah, so after I break your water, you think your contractions are coming fast now. They are going to come stronger and faster after I break your water. And that was the truth. After she broke my water, my contractions were stronger and faster. But my contractions were already strong and to begin with, because I had been taking red raspberry leaf extract, which really worked. Like, that worked. Like, when I say worked, I mean it. After she broke my water, I was in you're in active labor once you're at a 6, and I was at a 6 when she broke my water. Once a 7 came, I was ready for the epidural. I was trying to go natural first. Found out I was pregnant, and I was like, okay, like the whole time I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go natural. I don't want an epidural. Like, no, I didn't want an epidural. But when you feel that pain, like, that is a different type of pain that really nobody can describe to you. Like, yes, being like, if you're pregnant, I can tell you how I felt, but you won't really know how I felt until you feel how I felt. And that's how I felt. Like, yeah, I don't want an epidural, but I also don't really know, and I don't know what to expect when I'm about to have a baby. Like, I really was headstrong. Like, I'm really gonna go natural. Like, I can do this. I still probably could have did it because I made it to a 7 before I got an epidural. Like, before I got the epidural, I made it all the way to 7, and I could not do it anymore because my contractions were coming so fast and so strong. I didn't have a break. Like, I barely could breathe. Like, I really forgot how to breathe. Like, you get to a point with that pain, and it's like, oh my gosh. Once I got to 7, I was like, yeah, I cannot do this no more. Like, it got to a point where I couldn't walk. I forgot how to breathe. Like, I was trying to catch my breath, and contractions kept smacking me, like, really whooping. Like, okay, if me and contraction was in a fight, definitely they won. Like, for sure, they definitely won. But yeah, after I got the epidural, I felt amazing. But here we go. I got the epidural, and they gave me fentanyl first. They mixed it with something. It just was not straight. It was not just the straight epidural. Yes, it was fentanyl, but they gave me a strong dosage. So they wanted me, my contractions were coming so fast and so strong that they wanted me to get that medicine so that once they gave me the epidural, my pain will go away immediately. And once they did that, yes, it was good for me, but it wasn't good on my baby, because as soon as they administered the epidural into my back, my baby went into distress. So once he went into distress, it was like panic 1000 in my hospital room. Like, it was doctors coming in, like doctors who weren't even delivering my baby coming in the room. Like, the doctor who delivered my baby came in the room. It was 2 doctors who technically delivered my baby. So 2 doctors who delivered my baby, 1 C-section doctor, and a whole bunch of nurses. I'm in the military and I have my baby on base. So you have corpsmen. So you have corpsmen coming in the room, flooding the room, and the doctors, and the doctor who was in the C-section, who's a C-section doctor who gives the C-sections. She was like, yeah, we have to get her up prep for emergency C-section. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute. I don't want no C-section, so please don't give me one. Like, don't give me a C-section. She's like, okay, we're gonna, because his heart rate dropped. The medicine made his heart rate drop. And they're like, well, if he doesn't get his heart rate up back, if this doesn't get his heart rate back up in a certain amount of time, then we're gonna have to give you an emergency C-section. I'm like, okay. So they hurry up and flip me over. As soon as that happened and they all rush in, they hurry up and flip me over on my hands and knees, and they gave me a shot in my leg to get his heart rate back up. And they're like, they put the oxygen in my nose. Like, they're like, you have to take deep breaths, and then you have to just stay calm. And I'm like, okay. Soon as they flipped me over, I just started praying, because I didn't know what else to do. And the last thing I wanted was for something to be wrong with him and for me to get a C-section, because it's just not what I wanted. Like, I already went against myself with the epidural. I did not want to have to get a C-section. Like, that just would have, I was prepared for anything to happen, because my thing is, like, you have to go in with an open mind. Like, anything can literally happen. And I ended up getting an epidural. I didn't want that. And I didn't want to get a C-section, and I didn't want that. So after that, I just started praying, because I didn't know what else to do. And his heart rate ended up going back up. So after his heart rate went back up, they were like, they wanted to see if it was going to stay steady, because if it were to drop again, then I was going to have to get emergency C-section. At that point, I was irritated, because the doctor who was, she was the head of the OR, the doctor for the OR doctor. She kept coming. It's like she was pressing for me to get things that I really didn't need. Like, okay, I could understand the C-section if I really needed it. I'll get to the point where she was really pressing for other stuff that I really didn't necessarily need. But yes, it was irritating, because I really didn't want a C-section, and she kept coming in there like, oh yeah, well, if this doesn't happen, then she's going to need a C-section, and this doesn't happen, then she's going to need a C-section. And I'm like, we get it. Like, if something happens, if something doesn't go back up, if something this is something that, I'm going to have to get a C-section. Like, okay, give it time. Dang, she kept coming in there. I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm getting frustrated. So after that, his heart rate came up, and his heart rate stayed the same. And I had the epidural, but of course, like, I was laying on one side, so the epidural was only on one side of my body. I could still feel the other side of my body. So, but after I had got the epidural, let me go back. After I had the epidural, I had a contraction, and the doctor was like, okay, are you contracting? You're having a contraction right now. I said, nope, I don't feel anything. I feel great. Like, I feel amazing. If you are for the epidural, then I would say, like, because I would say if I were to have another baby, and I don't feel like I have any other kids, but if I were to have another baby, I would have them natural. But I would say under different circumstances. Like, I ended up having to get an episiotomy, but I'll continue the story. But for stuff like that, you're eventually going to have to get some pain medicine anyway, so why not? But that pain is a mother lover, okay? Let me say something, disclaimer, any woman in the world who has ever had a baby natural, baby, all the props to you in the world. I definitely want to try to go natural if I was to have another kid, because I made it to 7. Okay, I could have made it, okay? So, but that pain was just something different, and yeah. But after the doctor leaves, the OR doctor leaves, the doctor who delivered is he asleep? Oh my, wow. The audacity. The disrespect. You were supposed to stay up during this video. But anyways, after the doctor leaves, the doctor who delivered my baby comes in the room. They both come in the room. And it was only supposed to be one doctor delivering my baby, but because of what happened, they wanted to keep everybody on standby just in case something were to happen. And they all needed to be there. So after the doctor leaves, she's like, yeah, you're only going to have 1 hour before you get to 10 centimeters dilated. So I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be able to take a good old nap, you know, wake back up rejuvenated, because the contractions beforehand really had my body on like tired, like I'm ready to go to sleep. So I'm like, I'm going to be able to get some rest. I'm going to be able to sleep. Like, all right, here we go. I'm going to wake back up and I'm going to have a baby. Like, baby, why did the other doctor come back in the room and he said, well, can I check your cervix? And I'm like, yes, that's fine. So he checks my cervix and he's like, how about you try to push right now? And I'm like, push? Right now? Like, what happens to an hour? Like, I want some sleep. That ain't what happened. He's like, yeah, try to push right now. He stretched some things and did some, whatever he did, and he started telling me to push. And here comes the lady from the OR again. And she's like, well, if this doesn't happen, we're going to have to give her emergency C-section. And I'm like, God, where are you? Because this woman, and I have to be respectful because I'm still on base. Like, these are still my superiors. And I'm like, I don't want to get kicked out because of my mouth or get sent to mass because of my mouth. But how irritating could you be? Like, we get it. Like, now I'm in the process of pushing the baby out and you still talking about this. Like, we heard you the first 5-10 times, ma'am. So it is like, so she's saying this, and I'm like, so then I just stopped paying attention to her. After that, I just stopped paying attention to her. I left it alone. I'm directing it to the person who's delivering my baby. So I'm like, will I have to get a C-section? He's like, if you push as hard as you can, you won't have to get a C-section. And I'm like, okay. And then here she comes talking about, like, she's gonna need the forceps. She's gonna need the vacuum. I'm like, okay, so does the forceps? Because my thing is, I did not want to tear at all. I did not want to tear. So I'm like, is the forceps going to make me tear? She's like, yes, they're going to make you tear. The vacuum is going to make you tear. And I'm like, okay. But I ended up having to get a episiotomy. She's like, well, we are going to have to cut you because his head, I guess his umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck, or the cervix was, something was wrapped around him. I think it was both, really. And so they were like, yeah, we have to get him out. And another thing was that another problem that I was having necessarily was, at 9 centimeters, he was ready to come out. Like, I was pushing for him to come out, and they didn't want that. Like, that was too early. I wasn't dilated enough for me to be pushing. But by the time I got dilated, I was able to push him out. And after that, I did have to get an episiotomy. I had a 2nd degree tear. Well, not a tear yet, but a 2nd degree episiotomy. And the pain was not, it didn't hurt, obviously, because I was on the epidural. And the epidural felt great. I didn't, I pushed out a 7-11. My baby was 7 pounds and 11 ounces. And I thought he was going to be a big baby. The doctors, before I had him, they kept telling me over and over again, well, yeah, he's going to be a big baby. Like, no. My son was born 7 pounds and 11 ounces. And he was 20 inches long. I had him at 15:04, which is 3:04 for you guys who don't know what time that is. And it was amazing. Like, they put him on me, and I was so happy. I kept asking. I'm pretty sure that doctor was tired of me because I was like, is he out yet? Is he out yet? Is he out yet? They were like, no, he's not out yet. I'm like, well, damn, can y'all hurry up? Like, I'm ready to meet my son now. And then he came out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, finally, like, nothing too major happened. But that was very scary because you know, I expected my birth to go one way, and then it ended up not going the way I wanted to go, which is fine. But my baby, at the end of the day, my baby was happy, and
I
that's
didn't
all I
mean to say
wanted.
my baby was
But
happy.
that
I
the
certainly
moment
meant
that
my
his
baby
heart
was
rate
healthy.
dropped, and it kept dropping, and it wasn't coming back up yet, that was just the scariest part for me, because like nobody wants something to happen to their baby. So and then my thing is, nobody told me what was going on until everything had calmed back down. It's like when everything started, this baby is drooling. So that baby, this sleep better be delicious, okay? That better be a good slumber. You better be dreaming about something important, because he's drooling on me. But yeah, nobody told me told me or his dad what was going on really until the panic like came down. And that was just scary, because you just don't, like, everybody's panicking, giving you shots for stuff, and you don't know why you're getting a shot. And when they did tell me that it was gonna make his heart rate go back up, but at the end, like, I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? We're all looking around like, what's going on? What's going on? I'm looking at him. He's looking at me like he was crying, because he's trying to figure out what's going on. I'm trying to stay calm, because I don't want my heart rate to scare him. And then it keeps going. His heart rate was already going down continuously. And then I'm like, God, just please pray that my baby's heart rate goes back up and it's steady, so I do not have to get a C-section, because I did not want to do that. So yes, I did ended up birthing a healthy baby boy. He is a month now, and look at him. As you can see, he's having the best sleep of his life right now. He's having the best sleep. But yes, I'm just happy, excuse me, that just went the way it did. Like, I wished I was praying, like, I prayed that nothing would have happened, but what happened was supposed to happen for whatever reason. And I'm happy because he's here now, and he's healthy, he's growing, he's getting bigger, and that's all that matters, you know. So yeah, I thank you for watching this video. That's the end of my story. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Tune in, because we always have more content coming. Comment what you would like to see from us, even though I have ideas, but comment what you would like to see from us. We'll see you next time. Peace.